Thanks a lot, guys. Welcome to the Taxslayer Bowl. Part of Capital One Bowl Mania, part of a great day of football on ESPN. After this, Bama, Washington, followed by Ohio State, Clemson. Folks, we're going to ball out until we fall out today. And we'll have two national finalists within the next 24 hours at the end of the day. Georgia Tech taking on Kentucky in this one. Hello, everybody. I'm Mark Jones, chopping it up one more time to close out 2016 with Rod Gilmore. Quint Kessenich down on the field joining us in just a bit. Rod, Kentucky back in the bowl business for the first time since 2010. Georgia Tech missed last year, went to the Orange Bowl 2 years ago. Both teams led by dynamic quarterbacks.
Great quarterbacks do it different ways. Georgia Tech, Justin Thomas closing out a great career, MVP of the Orange Bowl 2 years ago. And he is a guy with more than 4,000 rushing, but don't sleep on his option. He can throw the football. And then on the other side, man, I tell you, Steven Johnson, I think he saved Kentucky's season. He came in mid-season and has thrown the deep ball incredibly well and used his legs when he had to. And that's the MVP as far as I'm concerned for Kentucky this season.
Yeah, really turned it around after Barker was injured at quarterback. Third game into the season. Kentucky looking for their 8th win of the year. Georgia Tech, their 9th win of the season. And the Yellowjackets, by the way, coming into this contest, one of the hottest teams in college football. They've won 5 of their last 6 and 3 in a row. And for more, let's go downstairs to Quint.
In terms of Kentucky's rush offense, welcome to the Boom and Benny show. They're the only team in the Power 5 with 2 running backs who have rushed for 1,000 yards. Boom Williams, he's a home run hitter, averages 7 yards a carry. And Benny Snell, freshman All-American, over 1,000. He's forced 42 missed tackles. He's a bulldozer. You'll see both in their Wildcat sets.
Well, Kentucky won the toss, electing to receive to begin the football game. And the big Blue Nation,
representing,
showing out tonight.
Man.
Yeah, they traveled from Lexington all the way down in good numbers on a luminous and argent day here at Everbank Field in Jacksonville, Florida. Shaheen King back deep for the Wildcats. And he'll watch it go over his head out of bounds. It'll come back out first down and 10 from the 25-yard line. Steven Johnson, the starting quarterback, 6'2 junior, completed 55% of his passes on the season through 12 touchdowns against 6 interceptions. I mentioned the fact that he took over from Drew Barker in the first series of the New Mexico State game. In the third game of the season, they'd already dropped to 0-2, including a very disappointing loss against Southern Miss. But thus began their resurrection. Stanley Boom Williams in a tailback. A little play action to get it started. Caught on the sidelines, and Dorian Baker got his feet down just in time, Rod.
You talked about Johnson stepping in, and he's a guy who can throw the deep ball. They come play action, they find him, takes the hit. They changed this offense for him. A lot of Wildcat, as you heard from Quint, but they also have gone almost exclusively pistol, and right now they're in that Wildcat.
Yeah, Boom Williams, Rod, lining up to get the snap. They run a little reverse off of it to Baker, looking for a block on the edge, but brought down after a gain of about 2 on the play. Sets up 2nd and 8.
Remember how everybody used to line up in the shotgun with the back next to them and they try to run the zone read? Well, the whole pistol has kind of taken over. Instead of being under center or 7 yards back, the quarterback, like Steven Johnson right now, is at about 4 yards. A little bit easier to run directly straight ahead, and you can run your entire offense out of this formation.
Interesting look. 2nd down and 7 for the Wildcats. Johnson completes it to the edge to Garrett Johnson. The guy they call Juice had 3 touchdowns of over 40 yards this year. Picks up 5, setting up a 3rd down.
You know, we saw Johnson earlier this year, and, you know, he was getting comfortable. He was struggling a little bit. But, boy, did he take off the last few games, and he capped it off with a huge game against Louisville in their final game and an upset win over the Cardinals.
Yeah, this Kentucky team with a little momentum coming into this one against Georgia Tech. Taven Richardson in motion. Johnson looked his way, fumbled it, recovered. P.J. Davis with the recovery. Room service, Georgia Tech.
Johnson a little bit loose with the ball security. Watch, one hand on the ball, and it gets knocked out by Patrick Gamble, the best defensive player up front for the Yellowjackets, and P.J. Davis right on the spot.
What an incredible turn of events. A midfield cataclysm for Kentucky. Disaster turns into a touchdown for the Yellowjackets before their offense even gets on the field. Georgia Tech leading 7-0. And with that extra point, Harrison Butker becomes the school's all-time leading scorer. But one more look at that fumble caused by Patrick Gamble.
Yeah, he's an all-conference honorable mention player. He fights his way through. And look at that. Punches it out with the left hand. And P.J. Davis, who's been their leading tackler 2 of the last 3 years, shows off the speed.
Wow, what a start, Quint.
Yeah, ball security has been a story for Steven Johnson all season long. Against Alabama, he had 3 fumbles. He loves to scramble. And, you know, there's a slight indecision on that play. The ball's not tucked away, and a disastrous start for the Wildcats. Johnson has to regain his composure.
Boy, Kentucky seemed to have it moving down the field pretty well until they hit that speed bump on 3rd down. You mentioned Steven Johnson. He's coming off arguably his best game of the year in that victory over Louisville. It'll be 1st down and 10 again from their own 25-yard line. Boom Williams in a tailback. 1st and 10. They fake the jet sweep. It's going to be Williams up the middle. Gamble making the stop. Rod, what do you make of the keys to this game, respectively?
Well, there are a couple things that were kind of standing out for us as we talk about what needs to be done and who's here and who's missing and the like. Georgia Tech, Marcus Marshall is not with the team. He's transferred. That means more touches for Dedrick Mills. And then for Kentucky, we talked about the Wildcat. We're going to see a lot of it today, an awful lot of it.
Those are the keys of the game, brought to you by Franklin American Mortgage Company. 2nd and 7 play fake. Johnson incomplete. Had a little pressure on him. They turned up the heat. And Branch may have hit him as he tried to release the football. Sets up 3rd and long.
Yeah, Desmond Branch, the redshirt sophomore, got a little pressure inside. And I think he did affect Johnson's pass. And now you've got a 3rd down. Pressure 3rd and long. This has not been the ideal place for Johnson, but the Georgia Tech defense has struggled on 3rd down, particularly passes here.
Johnson has to take off and won't get the 1st down tackled at the 42-yard line. So the Yellowjackets defensively answer the challenge. A.J. Gray, the strong safety, with a tackle.
Yeah, Georgia Tech brought pressure 6th. Blitz up the middle, forces Johnson out of the pocket. Never could get his eyes back down the field.
And that brings in Grant McInnes. Brad Stewart back on his own 18-yard line to receive this punt. Little rugby-style kick by McInnes. Takes a bounce at the 30. And down just inside the 20-yard line for the first time today. We get a look at the Georgia Tech offense after that 37-yard punt. And the wizardry of that guy, Justin Thomas, working that wishbone when we return. Welcome back, everyone, to Everbank Field on December the 31st. Big day of football coming up. At the end of the day, we'll have the 2 finalists in the college football playoff. 1st down and 10. Georgia Tech's offense on the field for the first time. Justin Thomas under duress is going to be sacked for a loss of about 3 yards. Alvante Bell And Jordan Jones in on the stop for the Wildcats. Justin Thomas completed 55% of his passes this year. 8 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. But beyond the stats, his value, Rod, really the fact that he's a 5th-year senior. Great leadership, great decision making.
3-year starter. He's had a great career. He's a magician with the football. Try and find the ball when they run the option.
2nd and 12. They give it to the first man through the hole. And a first down by Dedrick Mills. Keep an eye on that football today, folks. It'll be bouncing around a bunch of different places.
Yeah, look at the huge hole that opens up for Mills. An easy read for Thomas as there was no one crashing down on the dive back, and he just gave it to Mills and let him run.
13-yard gain for Mills. First down and 10. Assignment football. You hear that phrase a lot when it comes to defending the wishbone. We'll be getting into that. Thomas going to try and sling it again. Has a man complete at midfield. Searcy into Kentucky territory. You can't sleep on the arm of Justin Thomas.
Well, Searcy was sitting in that A-back spot, sort of as an H-back for you normal offensive football fans, and he just circled out to the backside, and a perfect throw by Thomas. We talked about Thomas's ability to throw that deep ball right off the top of the show. He's an option quarterback, but he can sling it down the field.
36-yard gain. What do you mean by normal offensive football fans?
Yeah, you don't see the option every day.
First man through, the dive man gets it, but hit immediately. 1-yard gain. Jordan Jones makes the stop on Mills. Let's go down to Quint.
Well, fans get an early look at this Georgia Tech throwing offense. They only toss it 21% of the time, but they average over 20 yards per reception. Big plays on the mind of this Kentucky defensive coaching staff.
Yeah, Q, they lull you to sleep with that option and then hit you with a big one over the top.
2nd down and 9. Thomas, good decision, gives it to Green this time, and Green brought down right near that first down marker. Boy, Thomas got rid of it just in time.
Hey, Jonesy, we talk about option football. You're reading the first 2 guys outside that B gap to figure out how to make your reads. They switched up who they brought in, and he tackled the guy he was supposed to, but Thomas pulled the football.
Yeah, there you have the decision making of a 5th-year senior and a 3-year starter. First down and 10. Gain of 1 on 1st and goal by Dedrick Mills. 2nd and goal, 10th play of the drive come up for Georgia Tech. Second and goal, they option into the boundary. Thomas pushed out of bounds at about the 5-yard line by Marcus McWilson, picked up 4. So an interesting 3rd and goal coming up now for Georgia Tech. Already leading 7-0 on a scoop and score.
If you're thinking ahead here about Georgia Tech down here, I don't think they'll run option here. You know, it's kind of high risk to handle the ball that way down here in this area. They have the ability to run directly at you or to toss it. They run option, could be a little dangerous.
They've had 9 runs to just 1 pass so far on this drive. Thomas almost intercepted. Wow, he threw it right into the hands of the defensive lineman.
Yeah, T.J. Carter was right there. Right there. And that's not their game. The short passing attack is not Georgia Tech's game. And that's why I was thinking, you know, they'll run this thing, but the little flares, the little in routes, that's not what they do.
Wow, that was dangerous. And instead now, Harrison Butker comes in to kick a field goal on 4th and goal. Butker, the school's all-time leading scorer. After that extra point a little bit earlier, he's 11 of 13 on the season. This one coming from 23 yards out. And he knocks it through, capping an 11-play drive.
Good start, 11-play drive that had you going, and guess what? If you're Kentucky, you had a takeaway. You got a pick. But you got flagged because you had your hand where it wasn't supposed to be, and it ended up with a field goal. And guess what? You're down 10-0, but they're getting the ball.
And Kentucky going to take a knee again and start off 1st and 10 from their own 25. Rod, how do they protect their quarterback on this drive?
Well, that's the cardinal rule. Protect your quarterback. Take a look here. Block somebody. Anybody. Put a hand on him. Just don't let him run free. How about one more time? This time, inside. Just don't turn him loose. That's gamble. That results in a takeaway. One more time from the edge. We don't run the option at Kentucky. Not that much. Block somebody. I think Johnson and the coaches are saying, okay, O-line, get it together. Protect your quarterback. We got a chance here.
And Georgia Tech off to a 10-0 lead with 3.5 minutes to go in the first quarter. Kentucky with one of the most prolific backfields in the country, a couple of 1,000-yard rushers in Boom Williams and Benny Snell. Relatively quiet so far. A nice gain there, though, by Boom Williams out to the 30, picked up 6.
I think you'll see Kentucky get back to who they are. They open the game throwing the ball, and that happens. Break some tendencies. You had a month to kind of get ready for this, and you try out this new stuff. Now go back to who you are. You're a ground and pound team. You run some Wildcat, and you let your quarterback toss it down the field deep on occasion.
You mentioned Wildcat. They set up in the Wildcat here with Boom Williams getting the direct snap. Cuts it up inside and picks up the first down at about the 36-yard line. Boom Williams, a 5'9" junior, picks up 5 on the play. All-conference 3rd team this year in the SEC, and a great bounce-back season after injuring his elbow last year.
You know, Jonesy, Georgia Tech is playing a nickel defense right now, and their nickel back is Lawrence Austin, who's 5'9", 185. He's got to act like a linebacker at times, and they tend to run a bit toward him.
Under a minute to go here in the first period. Johnson hands it off to Benny Snell, who picks up the first down into Georgia Tech territory at the 47. Griffin makes the tackle on the 10-yard gain.
Benny Snell's great uncle, Matt Snell,
yeah.
back in the day, New York Jets, Super Bowl win over the Baltimore Colts.
One of the biggest upsets of all time at the time.
They actually were the Baltimore Colts.
How old are you, man?
Too old.
Under a half minute to go in the first. Johnson hands it off again to Snell, gets to the edge, and pushed out of bounds after about a 5-yard gain. His dad, too, actually played in the XFL and for the Baltimore Ravens. Sets up a 2nd down just outside the 40-yard line. Kentucky on the move again. Got to make use of your possessions because Georgia Tech is a big time of possession team with that wishbone. And Snell picks up the first down. Gray making the tackle. And that's the end of the first quarter of play here for the TaxSlayer Bowl.
Of the first quarter.
But Georgia Tech leads it 10-0 on a scoop and score as we close out 2016 with a big day of football. Johnson hands it off to Snell, and Snell picks up 2. And Snell ran for 192 yards this year against Missouri, setting a school single-game record for freshmen. Ran for 1,057 yards on the season, 13 touchdowns.
Jonesy, only 6 passes thrown in that first quarter total.
2nd and 8. Johnson going to take off. Had a nice crease up the middle and makes it down to the 23-yard line. Still about 3 yards short of the first down. Stenberg, the freshman all-conference player, with a good block. He picked up 5. So an interesting 3rd down coming up for Mark Stoops here. From the 24-yard line, still trying to get on the board.
34% on 3rd downs this season. Number 106 in the stats. Not good.
They've had 9 consecutive run plays, Kentucky. 3rd and long. Four-receiver formation for Johnson at quarterback. Sets his feet, fires, almost intercepted, tipped by Corey Griffin, who made the tackle on the last play, and fourth down coming up.
The middle of the field is dark and full of terror, and Kentucky just experienced that. That was almost a pick. You saw Corey Griffin lurking, looking for that ball. That's the tough area for the Kentucky offense right now.
And in comes Austin McInnes. Had a big season for Kentucky. This one coming from 37 yards out. He kicked 2 game winners this year. One we saw against Mississippi State and then against Louisville to end the season. Gets this one right down the pipes. And Kentucky on the board, trailing now by just 7. Back in the bowl for first time in 6 years.
SEC having a little bit of a tough time in the postseason.
Yeah, slow start. They started off 1-4 in the bowl games before a couple of wins yesterday. Petrell on the return out over the 30 to the 31 as we go down to Quint for more on Georgia Tech.
Yeah, an interesting aspect of Georgia Tech's offensive line play. Center Freddie Burton. You'll notice his stance is very different from a typical center stance. Is sitting back. You'll see John Toth this way, head up, able to read coverages. For Georgia Tech, as you hold my mic, you'll see the opposite hand come down in a 4-point stance here, but high in the air. So the snap, and then you're moving upfield to the second level. It's a really different look between the center and the quarterback. Burton's job is to bypass that nose tackle and get upfield to the second level to cut off a linebacker.
Q, it's essentially a bear crawl from the center to make his block.
1st and 20 now from the 9. Thomas keeps it and is tackled at about the 15-yard line. Justin Thomas, boy, what a great bounce-back season he's had this year. Alluded to his talents a little bit earlier. Last year, the team went just 3-9. He had lost at one point 5 different running backs at one time. Guys had different starts around him, and so there was no consistency for Georgia Tech last year. Thus the inauspicious ending to their season. But Thomas, great leadership at that position. Tosses it to Lynch, and Lynch gets to the edge, squares those shoulders, and picks up a Georgia Tech first down. We got a flag again. Let's go back to that cut line.
Yeah, watching the center here, you'll see 51. That is Courtney Love. He gets knocked down by 2 guys, one high, one low. That is the call by the officials, the flag, and that was a couple plays ago.
Face mask, defense, number 29. 15-yard penalty added to the end of the run. First down.
This penalty is going to go against Derek Beatty, the tall defensive back right there, for face mask. And it's the 15-yard variety all the way out now to Kentucky side of midfield at the 49. So Georgia Tech with an opportunity here. 2 timeouts remaining.
Plenty of time, but they can take a shot. You know, Thomas has a strong enough arm.
On the scramble, Thomas faked it and steps out of bounds, picks up 3, stops the clock with 1:30 to go. Let's go down to Quint.
You know, the biggest challenge for Thomas in the throwing game is his lack of height. He's listed at 5'11", but from field level, guys, he's not close to that. And so creating passing lanes, vision for him has been a challenge today. They love to roll him out and move the pocket. That time, nothing happening on the straight drop back.
Yeah, Q, they can't protect him either. They haven't been able to block guys and keep him clean, so he's been forced to go. Even when they don't roll him out, he's forced to scramble out.
Thomas has a little bit more time this time, and the pass dropped by Clinton Lynch. And at times this year, that's been a little bit of a malady for Georgia Tech.
Well, that play would have been the time to take a shot down the field. Look at 83, Brad Stewart is free. He comes down short and goes to Lynch. Can't hang on to it, but he had Stewart running free down the field. Watch Stewart take off. Completely open.
Stewart was the one that had to drop earlier for Georgia Tech. So 3rd and 7. Mills in the backfield. Cersei in motion to the top of your screen. Complete. And that's going to be a first down catch by Ricky June. His first of the day. He's their leading receiver yardage-wise coming into this game today.
Did you see what Quint was talking about? Move him out so he can see. Get Thomas outside of those big redwoods inside so he can see downfield and make a throw to the outside to June.
Generously listed at 5'11". Justin Thomas, who initially committed to Alabama in high school his senior year, picks up 14 with the pass. Little option into the boundary, this time to J.J. Green. And with under a minute to go, this Georgia Tech offense in a nice rhythm, Rod.
Veer option, 2 unblocked defenders, makes a good read. There's nothing there. Goes and forces the next guy on the outside to make a decision and gets the pitch. Reading the first defender outside that B gap. He turns his shoulder, so you go to the next guy and then get it pitched outside to your 3rd choice.
You got to be pretty selfless to play that position that Mills is in now. You're taking a lot of hits even if you don't have the football. Thomas, little quarterback draw, has a good block. Thomas, Justin Thomas, touchdown Tech. There's a reason they call him Smooth.
Oh, they're going to miss him when he's gone. This is his final game, a 3-year starter. Has had more than 4,600 passing yards, more than 2,300 rushing. Gets a tremendous block by Mills out there. And off to the outside. Watch the stretch. Get that cone.
Oh,
the
nice.
left hand. 6.
And his 6th rushing touchdown of the season as well. Georgia Tech up by 14 points and a pretty poised drive by Georgia Tech. They started with their worst starting field position of the game. And they went for it on that pivotal 4th down. And here's the fruits of that gamble.
Yeah, 2 great blocks. You had Mills with a tremendous block down the field. Ricky June got one also. And Thomas read him perfectly, got to the edge. He's in. Doesn't step out of bounds. Nicely done.
11 plays, 94 yards. They started on their own 6. And there's a New Year's Eve kiss for you from Justin Thomas. Come out to the 25-yard line, 1st down and 10 for the Wildcats.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised the SEC has struggled in the bowl seasons?
You know, it's even up with the 2 wins yesterday, but yeah, I think you'd have to say it's been a big surprise so far. Johnson into a tight window and broken up nicely by Corey Griffin, who has a couple of interceptions this year and was actually the team's leading tackler with 79 stops and saying, not here, not now.
But Dad's got to make this catch, though. A little distraction, as you mentioned, as you had Griffin coming in, but Dad's got to make this play.
2nd down from the 25. Kentucky team coming off its best win of the season against Louisville. Struggling for points right now. This is Boom Williams pushed out of bounds about 3 yards shy of that 1st down marker. In a relatively silent first half for Boom and for Benny Snell. A couple of 1,000-yard rushers on the season.
Silence for the Blue Nation here. You know, also a lot of Kentucky fans have made the trip and they haven't had as much to celebrate. Sitting on their hands.
3rd down and 2. Williams again. Close to the 1st down. Maybe not. Well, not sure that he got there.
Well, it'll get measured. And if this is an official timeout.
Georgia Tech calls their 2nd timeout of the half. 30 seconds.
Georgia Tech called it thinking they might get the ball back, but you know, if you're Kentucky, if you get this first down, if you're close enough, it's fourth down they've marked it.
31 seconds.
I don't think you'll see Mark Stoops roll the dice.
Not like Johnson
the way
did?
Johnson did? No, I don't think so. I think he'll kick it away. So it's a good timeout call by Johnson to try and get the ball back.
So fourth down, and Grant McInnes comes on to punt for Kentucky, perched at his own 20-yard line. They come after it and block it. Georgia Tech gets the block and the ball at about the 29-yard line with 24 seconds to play. Plenty of time and a great opportunity and a ruckus on the sidelines.
Not only with players, you got civilians over there. You got coaches and other folks in the middle of this thing. Whoa.
Got a flag down. You would not be surprised, unsportsmanlike conduct call, but yeah, they came after that and got it. They had 3 different players there for Georgia Tech, and it looks like Terrell Lewis, number 52, might have been the guy.
Yeah, right up the middle.
The result of the play is an interception. After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct by the Georgia Tech bench. That'll be a 15-yard penalty. Georgia Tech keeps the ball, 1st and 10.
Now that makes me scratch my head too. I'm not sure how you, in that gathering of players, in that chaos, you discern that it's against Georgia Tech.
Well, I get a little frustrated when they throw flags on each side. I mean, if they caught the first guy or the side of the bench, you know, flag him.
Maybe they saw something that we didn't.
Well, there's a little bit of a push on Steinberg.
Yeah, that's a warning and play on.
Yeah.
And now you've effectively changed the equation for Georgia Tech with that call. 1st down and 10. Thomas slings it complete. Oh, and dropped by Searcy. That is the 3rd drop. I mean, he actually looked like he took a step with the football.
And he was back in field goal range. He did take a step. He was thinking about getting more yardage, and he drops it after he takes that half step. Watch. Yeah, never had control over it.
Boy, that's the 3rd time today that Justin Thomas has had a receiver drop a football on him. But remember, though, Harrison Butker has field goal range, well, up to about 54. You see the target line for field goal range on the screen. Little receiver screen, catch made by Stewart.
What a play by Beatty.
He's one of those tall cornerbacks you were talking about earlier, 6'3".
Well, you know, as a corner, you see a lineman coming out there at you, you're like, I'm a better athlete. Let me just go around you and make this play. And he did not hesitate. It's a good play.
Yeah, Beatty from Plant High School in Tampa, just down Interstate 4, not that far from here.
Georgia Tech calls their 3rd and final timeout of the half. Will the clock operator please reset the clock to 10 seconds?
Well, there you go. When you get back to 10 seconds, you've got an opportunity to get a play, and you need about 10 yards. There's, yeah, you see the clock there. It should stop. Hand up, end of play, and it just kept going.
And Paul Johnson, boy, you look back at that call against Georgia to win the game. Pass a little bit high, incomplete for Stewart, so that takes them out of the running, perhaps, for a field goal.
Well, you know, not so much. You can come back with a very similar play. Burn off 4 seconds.
You'd have to be real, real quick.
Well, you just burn 4 on that quick out. Maybe you cut it just a little bit short and give yourself a shot. If you can do that with an 8-yarder or so, you still probably get 1 second, maybe 2 on the clock.
6 seconds to go. Play clock winding down.
You think he's going to just toss it to the end zone?
I think that's better than a field goal.
Too long.
Got rid of it quick. Caught with 1 second to go.
I thought he was holding it. I thought he was holding the ball too long, but this is what we originally talked about.
They run their,
yeah, come back with the same play.
First down.
This is going to be about a 52-yard field goal. Okay, Butker going to line this one up from 52 for Georgia Tech. After all that debate and discussion, Butker straight and nails it. He has been clutch all year. Georgia Tech, the beneficiaries of some pretty auspicious clock management down the stretch in those last couple of plays. And Butker knew it was through the minute he nailed it.
And Mark Stoops is not happy. He is huddling with officials.
Let's go down to Quinn.
Coach, I look up at the scoreboard. You've held them to 3 points. What's been critical in limiting their big plays?
Well, we've got a couple fourth down stops, and we got the turnover that was huge, but they're moving the ball. I think both teams had the ball 3 times in the half, so possessions are key. We've got to try to find a way to slow them down and do a better job blocking at the second level. Our linemen are blocking well at the second level.
That's the biggest challenge you're facing as a play caller?
I think so, yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, not happy with the offensive line, Coach Johnson, but I'll tell you what, Mark Stoops working those officials like a part-time job in the first half. Let's go to the halftime report after these messages. Welcome back to the TaxSlayer Bowl, folks. A part of Capital One Bowl Mania. Here from Jacksonville, Florida. Georgia Tech leading Mark Stoops' Kentucky Wildcats 20-3 as we get ready to start the third quarter of play. Georgia Tech going to receive the football to start this third quarter. Yellowjackets able to get some points in the form of a 52-yard field goal to end the first half. Cottrell back for the kickoff return, a yard deep. And a nice return by Cottrell out to the 27. Quint spoke with Stoops a moment ago.
Coach, you appeared animated and agitated. What's been bothering you most?
Oh, we need to play better. You know, we need to do a lot of things better. We had some critical short yardage plays that we didn't make, and they made some. At the end, I wasn't in. I just wanted some clarification. They told me he was out of bounds, and then they told me he was in bounds. And I was just asking if he was in bounds, why the clock didn't start. So I didn't understand that. That's all. I just wanted some clarification.
How can you create more explosive plays on offense?
Well, we have to just, we're not getting many plays. The game, we talked about it, we knew the game was going to be short. We're methodical in our approach. They're methodical, but we do have to create some big plays. We just got to make them. We had some shots called. We just missed them or didn't have time to do it.
Thank you, Coach.
A little chippy out there today.
Dude's doing a little chin check out there. All right.
I want to go back to what Mark Stoops was talking about, the lack of plays. Kentucky had 5 possessions in the first half. Normally you get somewhere around 3 or 4 a quarter. So they haven't had as many possessions, and if that holds true in the second half, each possession is valuable for Kentucky. They can't squander them.
Puts a premium on them being able to get points as this thing continues. 2nd and 4 for Georgia Tech, and they pick up another first down. First man through is Dedrick Mills, the freshman All-American. Picked up 6 yards.
You know, Stoops talked about how deliberate Georgia Tech is. Look at it. Take their time, get to the huddle, get to the line of scrimmage, check and see where you want to run your option. Use that entire clock.
After that face masking penalty against Kentucky on the punt return, Mills.
Ruling on the field is down by rules, 2nd down.
Okay, so they're going to give him a gain of about 4.
Forward progress will stop.
This offensive line is dominating right now. They're getting 4 yards, 5 yards on first down, and for this option, it's awesome. And you know, no one's playing better up front than the left guard, Parker Brown. He's doing a tremendous job. Very athletic.
Yeah, freshman All-American, 6'3", 280 pounds. There he is, number 75. Thomas with the pitch into the boundary. Mills brought down by Ware right in that field goal range marker that we have on our screen. 3rd down and short coming up now for Georgia Tech.
Well, and likely 2-down territory for Georgia Tech, up 17. You're at about the 37-yard line. You have a 3rd and 2. You can run the option a couple plays if you don't get it on 3rd down here.
Rod, how odd is it that Johnson doesn't use a play sheet?
Extremely odd. You've seen everybody with the big placards that they use with their entire offense. It's all in his head.
Yeah, he's probably got a flip phone still, too. 3rd and 2. They give it to the first man through, the dive guy, and Mills picks up another 1st down. He met Jordan Jones head on and won that battle. 5-yard gain to move the chains.
5'10", 217, built low to the ground, hit and spin. Backs are taught to do that. Spin on contact. Picks up the 1st down.
Down to Quinn.
Yeah, and they run behind Parker Braun, as you said, this left guard, 6'3", 280. You know, most of these linemen on this Georgia Tech front are about 280. The guys you'll see later today in the playoff games are in the 300 to 310 range.
Yeah, different animals.
And what Braun has done well this year is use his feet. He's great in space, getting to the 2nd level and getting on the legs of a linebacker or scooping out the nose tackle when they run away from him.
1st and 15. Georgia Tech is led right from the beginning. Toss into the boundary and a nice run by Dedrick Mills. Picked up about 4. Under 3 minutes to go, and the clock quickly becoming Kentucky's enemy.
Kentucky fans should be getting a little antsy, and certainly the fans in this stadium appear to be antsy.
They showed up in a big way, too.
Yeah, a lot of concern for those who made this trip, and a lot of them made the trip.
Been a long time in waiting. They haven't been to a bowl game since 2010. Mark Stoops turned this thing around, got to 7-5 this year. And in his 4th year as head coach. 2nd and 10. Thomas back to pass, has a man, incomplete, intended for number 28, J.J. Green. And broken up by Beatty.
Well, the Wildcats have not fallen asleep in the secondary. They've played well. They have not been surprised by the option pass, the fakes, whether it's been Beatty, as you see there, or Westry on the other side. They've been up to the task of the deep throws by Thomas. It's just the option, the fullback dive inside that's been an issue for them. And on this 3rd down, if I'm Paul Johnson, I'm not worried about throwing the football. Grind it out, grind the clock, run the football.
Thomas going to pass. Overthrows his target in the end zone. Ricky June was the intended receiver working against Beatty. So 4th down coming up for Georgia Tech, and Harrison Butker coming in to attempt a field goal.
And he's got a big leg.
This one well within his range. Going to be from 44 yards out. He's made 2 already today from 23 and 52. Kentucky needs a big play. And Butker drills it to go up by 20 points with 2:15 to go in the 3rd quarter. 2:15 to go in the 3rd quarter. It's been all Georgia Tech since the opening kick. This one squibbed. And it'll come out to the 25-yard line. 1st down and 10. We'll see Clemson and Ohio State. 2nd game after that Alabama-Washington game on ESPN. C.J. Conrad with the reception. Hey, we haven't talked about that one. What do you make of the Clemson-Ohio State matchup?
I think it's going to be a great matchup. I like Clemson because I like what Watson's doing, and I think the pressure is on J.T. Barrett at Ohio State to have a big game throwing from the pocket. That's his challenge today.
2nd and 5. Quick 3-step drop, gets rid of it in time, complete to Badette. And for more on Ohio State, Quint?
Yeah, for the Buckeyes and Urban Meyer. And I've been to Columbus for signing day 5 years since Coach Meyer took over. His recruiting is all about today, rivalry games and championship games. When he's analyzing high school talent, those are the games he watches on tape. Your high school rivalry game and the championship game. He could care less about a 7-on-7 summer league tournament. Those games are the kids he targets who play well in those games, and that's why I think the Buckeyes will play well tonight. Interesting. Kids who are used to the spotlight. That pass incomplete, and no flag intended for Greg Hart. P.J. Davis in on coverage.
Yeah, just getting back to Quint. He's right on the money. That's an X factor in that game. Urban Meyer and his ability to get his players rested, to get them focused, dialed in, and to compete at the highest level.
Urban Meyer is 45-3 with more than a week to prepare for a football game. Little receiver screen complete. That's Blake Bone, who fights for the first down. On a 6'5" junior out of Woodruff, South Carolina.
You know, Jonesy, I really believe Kentucky has to score on this possession. I mean, they're just running out of possessions to make up this deficit because Georgia Tech is eating up clock.
Yeah, we're under a minute to go here in the third, and Kentucky still without a touchdown and not many opportunities. Johnson under heat. Gets rid of it, taking a shot. And incomplete. Blake Bone and Step Durham were step for step, stride for stride.
Well, the guy who's been missing in the Kentucky offense is Garrett Johnson, number 9. They've hardly looked his way tonight, this afternoon, I should say. He had a huge game against Louisville, a 75-yard touchdown catch, a 65-yard catch for a touchdown. And he's been missing in action today. 1 catch for 5 yards.
One of several Kentucky players, 14 of them from the state of Florida, back in their home state for this bowl game. Johnson gets rid of it. That's going to be an incomplete pass to Boom Williams. With 31 seconds to go, 3rd and 10 coming up. Boy, Kentucky just looking for answers offensively and seemingly unable to find any.
Let me ask you this. First bowl game since 2010. Just happy to be here?
It's always a factor. Always a factor. You get to bowl games, you never know about the motivation or ambition. Tell you what, it's been a good week for the players, though, off the field. Johnson complete to Badette in field goal range now. Going to mark it just shy of the 35. Badette, the team's leading receiver, coming into the game with the catch.
Best throw of the day for Johnson so far.
Pickup of 16 yards. Clock moving with 16 seconds to go in the third. Johnson gets rid of it quickly again, complete at the 39. Badette once more. And that's going to be the end of the first 45 minutes of football. 1 quarter to go. Kentucky with 4 fingers raised in the air, but a lot of work to do. It's been all Georgia Tech. They lead it when we come back to the Tax Slayer Bowl here in Jacksonville. 2nd and 2. Oh, they called the screen against the pressure. Good call. And just enough for the first down by C.J. Conrad. Picked up 5, and Johnson took a stick after he got rid of the ball.
Now, this is the best drive of the game for Johnson and Kentucky's offense, and he's hanging in there doing whatever it takes, taking the big shot to get his team moving here. They've been productive on this drive.
Henry Senamore hit him after he let go of it. First down and 10 from the 23. Johnson keeps it and picks up 3 down to the 20-yard line. You know, interesting story about Johnson. We talked about the fact that he took over from from Drew Barker. in the third game of the season after the first series. This is a guy that beyond those numbers you see, beyond the big win against Louisville, a young man that overcame Tourette syndrome in the 8th grade when he was 13 years old after his family, and he had tried a whole bunch of different medications, both over-the-counter and unconventional and holistic, and he credits that to his great faith, and he has been symptom-free ever since. Into the end zone and incomplete. Overthrew Garrett Juice Johnson.
He had a lot of faith in Johnson that time. He couldn't see him as he was under pressure. He put it out there where he thought Johnson would be, a little bit too far for him. But he's got to get Johnson involved, or he's got to get, you know, Baker involved. They need to come up with a big play. They need a touchdown this drive. It's not good enough to settle for 3.
Yeah, we're talking about 4-down territory here. 3rd and 7. Johnson with man coverage into the end zone. Caught! Baker with the grab. Wow!
Now that's the Dorian Baker that Kentucky fans remember. He struggled early in the season, had a bad hamstring, took him a while to get back, had a big catch against Louisville, and watch him lay out here. Great throw, great catch, had control of it, leaves his feet. You have to have control all the way through the process. He had his hand underneath the ball. That is a good catch.
Great catch by Baker.
I'm counting possessions. And by the way Georgia Tech has gone, if you don't get 3 and outs, Kentucky probably has 2 more possessions, maybe 3.
Only 2, huh?
Maybe 3.
Yeah, the way things have gone so far, it would take a change, like you mentioned, 3 and outs. So right now the task is on the broad shoulders of that Kentucky defense to get some stops, and we come back to Jacksonville. With plenty of time, 13:40 to go. Kentucky looking for its 8th win of the season. And this is their first bowl game in 6 years. Nate Cottrell on the kick return. And Cottrell piled up at the 23. It'll be 1st down and 10.
So Joe
gave it to Mills that time, and Mills with another nice gain of about 5. Mills now 20 rushes for 98 yards on the day. A talented freshman out of Waycross, Georgia. And there's a look at the hardware which the winning team will bring home. MVP and runner-up MVP trophies as well. Boy, so if you lose a bowl game, you get a trophy? Still on his feet, Mills. Finally collared at the 30. And another Georgia Tech 1st down, and bumping his gums at Kentucky, letting them know. Picked up 28.
Hey, he wasn't down. Watch in the middle of the field. Some people stopped, slowed down. They thought he was going to go down, but he never got close to the ground. Just hit the spin button and away he went. And Jonesy, we were talking about possessions. Kentucky offensively, they've only had 8 possessions, 5 in the first half, 3 in the second. Clock being eaten up here. They may only get a couple more.
Already down 13 points. Mills again somersaulting over the pile. And picks up about 5 again with the clock still running, approaching 11 minutes to go. Think about it. Georgia Tech last year 3-9, and Paul Johnson said something interesting in our meeting with him. He said, we didn't panic. We knew that it was a situation where we just had an inordinate amount of injuries last year, and that was on the heels of a season where they went to the Orange Bowl and played against Mississippi State in a huge bowl game. So they knew that they would be right this year and have come back in a big way. Justin Thomas, the trigger man at quarterback, and another 1st down. Dedrick Mills, a talented recruit for Paul Johnson.
I think Johnson knows what he's talking about, since he's a 3-time ACC Coach of the Year. a National Coach of the Year back in '08. He's had 3 appearances in ACC championship games. He's got a pretty good idea how to run the option. And right now, he's giving Kentucky a steady dose of the fullback dive. Veer option football.
Mills with 23 rushes, 134 yards. And the beat goes on. Mills a yard shy of the first down. And at some point, this Kentucky defense has got to be a little bit fatigued.
Well,
just kind of pounding.
Yeah, but you got to roll the dice too. Tired or not, you got to roll the dice. And by rolling the dice, I mean you got to stop that fullback. You got to run blitzes into those gaps to make the quarterback pull the football. You have to do it. You just can't let them cut you open and bleed right up the middle of your defense.
Yeah, hands on hips and some deep breaths being taken. 2nd down and 1. Mills again, and picks up another Georgia Tech first down. Let's go down to Quinn.
All day we've been talking about the bear crawling offensive linemen and their cut and scoop blocks, and I submit as evidence of that green pants. Why does an offensive lineman have green grass stains on the front of his thigh pads and knee pads? Well, that's from diving. And this is a time of the game where Kentucky's defensive line is looking over at Coach Mark Stoops and says, can we get this over with yet? These guys are diving at my knees all day long.
He's got more than 240 yards for that offensive line for the running backs. They just need a little bit of bleach, a little detergent.
Yeah. Put it on the heavy cycle. Thomas steps back. Tackle looked like he put the ball on the ground for a minute. Got it back.
You know, we keep talking about possessions. This has been a 5-minute drive, 5.5 minutes for Georgia Tech. And this is why you're in desperation mode if you're Kentucky. You're just running out of time. You got to roll the dice. You got to take your blitzes. When you get back on offense, got to take your shots. Got to do it.
And that offense just staring helplessly and hoping that the defense can get a turnover or something where they can get back on the field. Instead, Mills again inside the 5, setting up a 3rd down and goal. Dedrick Mills, in the absence of Marcus Marshall, their leading rusher coming into this game, transferring to James Madison. Mills doing a great job with a career-high performance today in yards and attempts.
He just wants to get the goal line. He wants to get the goal line. We need him at the goal line. I saw you got that angry face, you know.
Justin Thomas on 3rd and goal. On the toss, nothing doing. Well read by Beatty, who came up from his cornerback spot. Rod, boy, great read by him.
He's had a day. He's played the run very well. He's defended down the field. This is just good anticipation and blowing by the would-be cut blocker, and that's Willis, who tried to cut him up, but no, not happening. Beatty just ran right by him, ran through that.
You know, Beatty plays with a lot of confidence from playing high school in Tampa. They got a great high school football program there. Butker in for another field goal attempt. This one from 26. And he drills it, his 4th of the day. So he's got to make from 23, 52, 44, and 26. And 2016 looking pretty good right now for Georgia Tech. They lead by 16 points when we return. Welcome back, everyone, to the Tax Slayer Bowl here in Jacksonville. I'm Mark Jones alongside Ron Gilmore, Quint Kesnick, and Justin Thomas has done a masterful job with that offense today, pulling the trigger at quarterback. And Butker with a career-high 4 field goals, helping out the offense. Georgia Tech with the lead with time winding down here in the 4th quarter. And they'll start things off from the 25. ACC on the verge here of getting a dub against the SEC. Johnson taking off. Hurdles the defender at the 32 and lands at the 35.
Yeah, he jumped over Brant Mitchell. Mitchell still got a piece of him.
That's not a safe career move, Rod.
You don't want your quarterback doing this, but this seems to be a thing now. It seems that we see more and more players jumping over guys.
Little helicopter move there. That time into a tight window, complete to Ryan Timmons. Under 6 minutes to go, first down and 10 Wildcats. From Georgia Tech's 45 in the hurry up now. 19-yard gain. Johnson again working the middle of the field, nobody home. Intended for Timmons again.
Well, it's hard to throw the deep ball. Georgia Tech is sitting back in kind of a quarters defense. Everybody covering 1/4 of the deep field. Not giving him an avenue down there and forcing him to try and fit it in shorter than that.
Second down and 10. Johnson sidesteps the rush, has a man, and overshoots Badet, who had gotten in behind Step Durham. Oh, those are the ones you need with 5.5 minutes to go.
Timeout.
Yeah, Durham had deep coverage, and Badet just ran by him. He got by him, just pure speed, just out of his reach.
Little blitz. They run a nice play against it. Pass complete. Caught by Garrett Johnson, the guy they affectionately call Juice for Kentucky. And they're going to go for it on 4th down. Not much choice here.
Yeah, it's their 9th possession. Might be their last possession.
Johnson complete. First down. Garrett Johnson gets down at the 33-yard line. Like a helmet-to-helmet stick almost. There's Johnson taking a hit from Jalen Johnson. And then Lance Austin got up out of the pile. Garrett Johnson still on his feet. Pardon me, Steven Johnson. Second down coming up. 4.5 minutes to go.
Well, they've got to hurry. They realize it. They got to pick it up.
2nd and 3, Kentucky. They pick up the first down. Catch made by Charles Walker.
Well, Johnson's doing the right thing. He really only has the check down routes because there's not much room, and Georgia Tech is dropping deep and saying you can't throw it back here, so you have to take the short passes.
.410 to go. Steven Johnson on his feet. Still alive. Johnson tiptoes, lunging. Touchdown, Kentucky. What an effort.
Steven Johnson on the carry for 21 yards.
Boy, he never gave up on this play.
No, tremendous effort. Does he stay in bounds? That's the one thing that you're checking. Does he keep his feet in bounds? And he does. Breaks the plane. This is the good angle to let you know if he broke the plane. Yeah, he did. It's a great job. Great single individual effort.
And now they're going to go for 2 to make it a 1-score game if they get this 2-point conversion. Got Dorian Baker to the top of the screen.
That's the place I'd go.
But dead in motion the same way. Backside pressure, they throw it back, and they get the 2-point conversion, and it's a 26-18 game. Hold on. We got a lot of football left.
Well, C.J. Conrad is 6'5", 245, and Lawrence Austin was late coming over, and he's only about 5'9". I'd say that's a post-up move and big advantage. Watch Conrad use his big body, shield off Austin. We're right back in it, man. Look at that catch, and all of a sudden, Kentucky's only down 1 possession.
Stephen Johnson leading his team downfield and taking out his do-it-yourself kid to score the touchdown a moment ago and the 2-point conversion. Now, the onside kick. And a fair catch called at the 42-yard line by Brad Stewart. Boy, they hit that way too heavy.
Well, we were talking during the break, and I thought you had enough time to kick it off. You got 3 timeouts. You know, commit your defense, roll the dice. You know, maybe you get there, but that was clearly not the way Mark Stoops anticipated the onside kick being executed.
Kentucky with 3 timeouts remaining. Mills with a career day in yards and carries. Out to the 46. Got about
Kentucky
4, stopped by Pringle.
Calls their first timeout.
And Kentucky burns one of their 3 timeouts.
Seconds.
2nd and 6. Mills again. Tough sledding between the tackles, a 2-yard gain. Going to be 3rd down and about 4 to go for Georgia Tech. And
full timeout.
Another timeout. 3rd and 4 coming up here. Wildcats defense in need of a stop.
This is when you roll the dice. This is when, if you've got the run blitz and you want to take away the dive, you go for it now.
Thomas throws it wide open. June. A key conversion via the pass for Justin Thomas. Clutch. And that's a dagger completion.
Yeah, they rolled the dice and went a little further. They brought a corner blitz as well and left June completely wide open.
I mean, he was turned loose.
They committed everyone to the run game. And June ran freely down the field.
He shot his arrow right to the right spot. Justin Thomas, 42 yards to Ricky June.
What a career Thomas has had.
Sometimes it's not all about if you're going to play in the NFL or pros. Mills on the carry. Sometimes it's great being a good or great college football
Kentucky calls
player.
their 3rd and final timeout of the game.
And Justin Thomas
seconds.
out of Prattville, Alabama, who ironically committed to Alabama coming out of high school initially, but they saw him as a defensive back.
And he would have been a good one. And we would have missed out on a tremendous option quarterback.
Concern etched across their collective countenance. 2nd and goal from the 7. Mills plowing his way. Dedrick Mills has been indomitable today. Indefatigable, tireless, unstoppable. 30 rushes.
And good, too.
Yeah, all that.
And good.
And then
yeah,
some,
yeah.
Rod. 166 yards. Well, I guess they didn't miss Marcus Marshall all that much.
Or maybe Marcus Marshall knew what Mills was bringing.
Touchdown, Mills. And Georgia Tech dropping the mic.
We're going to hear the chant ACC.
A little bit of conference pride on the line here. So the SEC about to take an L on this one. And they got 2 L's in Mills.
And Georgia Tech, I think, is going to be a ranked team to start the season.
Really? Okay.
8 starters back on defense, 8 on offense. A new quarterback, but Matthew Jordan, if he wins that spot at quarterback, has played this season. played solidly for them.
Yeah, he had a good game against Virginia Tech. Yep. They were missing a bunch of starters. Led them to the win.
You know, and on the other hand, Kentucky, this is a young team.
Youngest in the country.
Yeah, and they will have a quarterback battle next year. You know, Barker should be back, assuming he heals from his injury. And he and Johnson will battle for that spot. But, you know, right now, Johnson's the incumbent. He's definitely going into spring practice healthy. And he saved their season this year.
Yeah.
So that'll be a good battle to watch. And a lot of speed, a lot of talent. And recruiting-wise, Kentucky has been moving up the ranks in the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, Mark Stoops has done an outstanding job. Johnson tackled the back of the 22-yard line, and tell you what, that's hard to say no. But Badet couldn't squeeze that one.
If Alabama wins the national championship, he will equal Bear Bryant in championships, and make the argument he's done it in a tougher time and
yes,
much more competitive, much more balanced.
Yeah, you'd have to put an asterisk beside some of the wins of Bear Bryant. That pass to Benny Snell with 1:40 to go.
Ohio State fans are saying, hey, you know, Urban's got 3. Urban gets 1 this year. That'll be 4, and he'll be hot on Saban's trail.
Ohio State and Clemson, the second game after that Alabama-Washington contest. Interesting comparison when you look at Bear Bryant and Nick Saban.
Yeah.
It's funny how Saban came back to college football after that unsuccessful time in Miami and has really done extremely well.
Well, the Bear Bryant argument is, listen, he won a lot more games than Nick Saban.
Before the integration
sure,
of football.
Right. That would be the counter to that argument. But 6 national championships against 5 right now. And then if Saban gets 1 this year, and he has no desire to slow down.
Yeah.
He says he's going to coach a lot longer.
Second and 10. Johnson slings it and incomplete. And don't forget, tune into ESPN3 for the post-game trophy ceremony presented by Capital One immediately following this game. And it has been another compelling and riveting college football season. 1:11 to go. Mark Jones alongside Quint Kesnick and Rod Gilmore, and Johnson back to pass with a minute to go. Bouvier with the catch. Q.
Our last game as a crew, Jonesy and Rod, I speak for the entire crew, 40 of us. Thank you for dealing with your illness this fall with such great toughness and courage, and your positive attitude rubbed off on all of us. No complaints, kind of like a next play mentality, the next day mentality. And thank you, Rod.
A great point, Quint. And just to echo Quint's sentiments, Rod, you know, there's going to be some compelling and riveting football on the field, but the inspiration that you've provided to us in dealing with your 3, 4, 5 times a week treatments for your cancer and never complaining while traversing the country from coast to coast, partner, it really is a lesson in selflessness and sacrifice and toughness.
I'm fortunate to have a crew, to have friends like you and Q and our entire crew, and it's made all the difference in the world to me. Thank you, and I'm happy to be a part of this thing. Really am.
God is good, and we got you prayed up, and we'll be back doing this again next year as we get ready to sign off on 2016 and a great college football season building to a crescendo tonight with the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and after that you'll see Ohio State Clemson.
It's about to get really serious after this little bath for Johnson, and we get Alabama, Washington, and we're going to go hang out and catch that, and I think the rest of the country is probably going to join us.
Oh, yeah. Folks, when you got that lampshade on your head at midnight, remember who won, because we'll have 2 finalists at the end of the night. And the winner here, led by Dedrick Mills, is Georgia Tech, 33-18. So Georgia Tech with its 9th win of the season against 4 losses. Kentucky ends up at 7-6.
Guys, good luck.
33-18, the final score. Don't forget, coming up next, it's a college football playoff semifinal at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl with Washington taking on Alabama. For Rod Gilmore and Quinn Kesenick, I'm Mark Jones. This is Cooked, Glazed, and Sliced, folks. Thanks for watching. Right now, we send it to Atlanta.